Okay. The hallucinogens are relatively simple. If I can blow this up. The reason that the hallucinogens are relatively simple, if you look at their effects, this is a person's brain here. If you look at a person's brain when they're under the influence of hallucinogens, what parts of the brain would you expect to light up to really show an effect? Okay, let me.
Like wherever your senses.
Yo, you're on such the right track. You're on such the right track. Is that Sonia?
Yeah.
You're on such the right track. So your inference was wherever your senses are located. Absolutely.
Yes.
Very good inference. So we're talking about our sense of sight back here in the occipital lobe. We're talking about our hearing up here in the parietal lobe. These are the areas that are lighting up when you're looking at a brain's activity under the influence of hallucinogens. Again, these work and are very similar chemically to serotonin, but it's the serotonin in our brain that is responsible for our senses. And so when you look and you compare it to our other two substances that we went over, if you compare it to stimulants, and you compare it to depressants, we've actually gone over 3, we're almost done with all of our classification of substances, and you compare it to opiates, what part of the brain were these working in?
The brainstem?
Absolutely. The brainstem, they're working down here. So when you're working with hallucinogens, you're working more up here, and so you're having more of a psychological effect on someone. You're going to see vast mood swings. You're going to see extreme changes in a person's sensory perception. And I love where you guys are going with this. You guys are making logical sense. Would you expect to see a lot of overdoses that are fatal with hallucinogens?
No.
Exactly right. An overdose can be very psychologically damaging, but an overdose would not necessarily be physiologically fatal because it's not affecting it. Now, I'm not saying people don't have anxiety attacks when they're under a hallucinogenic experience, but they are not having their heart shut down. They are not having their breathing shut down. Their blood pressure may elevate due to some extreme anxiety. So here's your different kinds: mushrooms, LSD, peyote, ecstasy, PCP, which that's also a stimulant. Uses in history, we don't have to go over that so much here. Just know that peyote is legal on the Indian reservations in parts of Arizona for religious ceremonies. So when a person is intoxicated, and you really don't see, of all the drug use that we have, I would say that these are some of the least abused. They really don't have, you saw that I I crossed through withdrawal. They really don't have withdrawal, and it's hard to come up with physical signs of craving. There is some psychological craving, but it's not giving that. These actually don't give that dopamine rush. They're focused on serotonin. So you don't see a lot of people just abusing these. You do see it occasionally, but it's been more of a, they're kind of, folks are gravitating to this more psychologically than they are physiologically. So you're going to see some time-space distortion. There we go. Maybe not. Nope. You gotta be smarter than the blackboard, Taylor. Which probably isn't true. Probably isn't accurate. Okay, that's good. Folks are not going to be able to tell time very well. They're not going to be able to tell how long something's lasted. Their senses are going to be very significantly altered, especially sight and hearing. Anybody know what the term synesthesia is? That's a combining of senses. So when people are under the influence of some of these hallucinogens, people can actually see music, and so they'll be hearing some music and seeing like a kaleidoscopic image happening. So it's where the senses actually combine. Some of that's actually, in folks with autism actually have some of that too. People are on an emotional roller coaster. Bad trips are really panic attacks. And people can have some really bad dysphoria, just feeling bad. They're out of it. They're not oriented. Side effects, people are going to sleep when they come down because they're not going to be able to sleep when they're on this. Your senses are so heightened, people do not sleep when they're on a hallucinogen. People are going to be exhausted, and some people experience flashbacks. They may see things move or hear something differently, even though they're not under the influence. Again, you have a rapid and pervasive tolerance. People that take, let's say a person takes a LSD one night, they will take the same amount the next night and not feel it at all. Why would you say that? Well, again, Sonia, along your lines of thinking with pain, why would a substance that affects your senses cause somebody to have a rapid tolerance? Yes, absolutely. Lauren says you need your senses to survive. Most problems that happen on hallucinogens are physical accidents. People think that they could fly off a building, or they lose the ability to drive because they can't, understand their depth perception. That's most fatalities on hallucinogens are due to accidents. Long-term use, you just have some really different weird characters that evolve out of people just really become abstract in their thinking and just don't relate to other people as well, because they've qualitatively changed how they perceive things. So again, you don't see that a whole lot, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the hallucinogens. Any questions? Okay. And last, maybe, if Blackboard wants to cooperate. Well, while we wait on that, I want to give some resources to people. Maybe we're gonna go home. This doesn't work.
It doesn't, I mean, if you know how to turn that on, you can put this on there and talk about it,
Okay.
if you want to.
Yeah,
Unless
I think
they
I'd
have-
like to get through everything that.
Unless they have theirs pulled up, but I don't believe that ICE does.
Okay.
You can just put that under the.
I'm gonna try to close.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to close these two. Try one more time.
Is it already posted on Blackboard?
It is. It's posted on Blackboard. That's where I'm trying to pull it down from.
Cause I can do that from my iPad
And pull it up.
We can all be looking at it.
Yeah.
Except for you,
Okay.
I guess.
Let's
Unless
do
you know
that.
what I'm-
Well, man. It's not gonna work. Thanks, Lauren. Okay.
The white bar.
I think it's just the system that is down.
Okay.
Yeah. Cause I can pull up Blackboard.
You can't get it either?
No.
Okay.
Says service temporarily unavailable.
Alright, well that'll show me about trying to be.
Yeah, let's see, maintenance downtime.
Okay. Well, let's talk about marijuana and then we'll go home. What's marijuana do to somebody when they smoke it?
They get high.
They do get high. What are the effects of somebody being high?
Hungry, paranoid.
Here we go. Yeah. That's not gonna work now. Yeah, they're hungry. You've got increased hunger. It's getting clear. Maybe. They're paranoid. What's that mean if somebody's paranoid?
They think that everybody knows
Everybody knows, man. Yeah, they're like, oh man. Yeah, people get very self-conscious, paranoid. So there's some alterations to our senses, heightened of sensory perception. If you look under a science book, THC is classified as a hallucinogen. And so when people smoke, time goes by, kind of like we were talking about with the hallucinogens. Time goes by at a different rate. Dude, it's been like an hour and it's been like 2 minutes. There's people have dry mouth, red eyes, some mild euphoria, paranoia, distortion of time, heightened sensory perception, increased hunger. At low doses, there's actually some sedation, analgesia, and anxiety relief. At higher doses, people can experience some hallucinations, not as pronounced as the true hallucinogens up there. Some dysphoria, not feeling real good, raising some blood pressure and heart rate, and people can actually experience some nausea. Had an adolescent say that they threw up the other day when they smoked their California marijuana. So, I mean, it's like it can cause some pronounced physiological effects. Chronic use lowers production of sex hormones in both sexes. Decreases sperm production. It's not an effective birth control. You have to remind that to your adolescents. Decreases decreases cardiopulmonary function. Just like somebody that smokes, if somebody smokes a lot, it's going to affect their lung capacity. I had a friend that had purple fingernails because he literally smoked as much marijuana and had the high high tar content and developed signs of emphysema. Had to slow it down. Amotivational syndrome. This is the primary negative effect of chronic use that I can detect among people that use it. People adopt non-conventional goals that they believe are logistic and realistic type goals that they should strive for, which may be just to sit on the couch, eat Cheetos, and play World of Warcraft or Xbox or whatever they're trying to do. Probably not World of Warcraft because it requires some thought. So no, I'm just kidding. I've never played that. So, but people are really they get some real apathy. Not a lot of motivation. You see some in their affect. Man, I used to know this guy that I saw in college, and he sold weed. You know, his affects is really like blunt, and so you're going to see a blunted affect with someone like that. Impairment of judgment. Concentration is going to be impaired. Not be able to focus on things for long periods of time. They might have, man, I got this great thought. What was it? Oh man, I forgot. I don't know. You know, they're going to have a hard time with their cognition, having continuity. And memory. It's going to affect short-term memory. A loss of interest in personal appearance. You see people that are disheveled, don't care, roll out of bed. And like I said, pursuit of conventional goals. Some things that it does, it actually decreases body temperature. And if you give it to aggressive animals, it actually does tend to calm aggressive behavior. I had a law enforcement officer argue that marijuana was leading to teen homicides, and it doesn't physiologically, that argument just doesn't hold water. It's not going to make somebody go out and want to just rip somebody's head off. It's going to zap them in motivation is what it's going to do. They've done experiments with airline pilots and looked at their ability to fly simulators after smoking, both immediately afterwards and 24 hours afterwards. It impairs your ability to perform complex multi-step tasks. And so if you think about flying an airplane and what one of the cockpits look like with the thousands of instruments and panels that people have to keep track of, when you're doing something like that, a lot of the pilots crashed, were not flying appropriately. Even 24 hours later, we're still impaired. And so it does impair your ability to make a complex, drawn-out, multi-step task possible. Affects short-term memory. It impairs verbal recall and speech. There's some newer studies out that shows that folks that smoke marijuana have a hard time communicating verbally. So if you have somebody in your office, man, I just smoke because I'm just like, I just need to be relaxed around people. I got social anxiety. And so if you're hearing that argument, it's actually going to make them tougher to relate and to communicate with people. And they should be able to, and so well, tell me about how you're, and if somebody is, the folks that are smoking will be aware that their ability to communicate, the words that are coming out are not the words that they intend to use many times. There are studies that are showing that. Really bad for schizophrenics. It may be related to development of schizophrenia. There's a link in use of marijuana and people that are predisposed to schizophrenia and that onset. 50% of THC users drink alcohol in concurrence with smoking. Again, the effects are additive and cause more impairment in normal functioning. There is a withdrawal. That's new to the DSM-5. There definitely is cannabis withdrawal, irritability, restlessness, nervousness, decreased appetite, insomnia, rebound in REM sleep, chills, and increased body temperature. Tolerance quickly develops with high use. I'm not going to go into the debate tonight, so I don't think we'll get there in this class. We've got to move on to other things. Any thoughts, comments, questions?
Just the effects of all these substances on just a grown mind is that destructive. I can only imagine like the impact it has on on children who are not yet born with their minds being that young, like the effect it has on it. And so with this kind of knowledge, I don't think working with a pregnant woman who's abusing the substance will really be something that I may do, because with all this understanding, I'm just gonna be angry at her. Like, do you realize what this is doing, not just to you, but also to your unborn child? But at the same time, I mean, it would have been a wonderful thing with all this knowledge that I can be able to provide the education to that kind of woman, just for her to understand what's going on and how it's going to affect her child and what's going on with her brain and all that. So, but it's really, I'm glad I took this class just because of the knowledge that I'm receiving from the class.
Good, thank you. In Oklahoma, if you have a child born that's positive for methamphetamine, it's automatic removal of that child. The state will take custody, and so and there are, or they will remove custody and put it with a family member. I mean, they're going to take that baby away, and so your point's well taken with me. I see that a lot. I know, and it brings it. You just hear things when you work in the field. The last training I went to, I didn't know this until this past couple months. The last training I went to was a guy from Chicago, and he worked with the effects of drugs for children prenatally. In other words, the children that are unborn, on effects on the fetus, effects on the unborn child. They've gotten to where our knowledge base allows us, because our genes, our chromosomes develop like in the 22nd day. We develop like our hippocampus and our corpus callosum in our brain. That's when those structures are first starting to form and come together. And it's almost universal across, so that we know when the eggs fertilize and the child begins to develop, we can get down to the days when, okay, well that's happening or that's happening. And so this guy was able to tell, he looked really at fetal alcohol syndrome, but he also worked with other drugs too, where women had ingested drugs while they were pregnant. And he was able to tell, mom drank between the 20th and 23rd day, because when I looked at, and they did an MRI on the baby's brain, the corpus callosum was tilted forward and smaller. And so he said, well, because the alcohol went in at that time, the cells weren't able to divide, and the genetics weren't able to happen like they were supposed to because of that impairment. So we're able to go down on a very specific level and say, but she drank on the 23rd day of her pregnancy. And it's just really amazing. And so even like you see some ill-formed appendages, like they didn't all come together like fingers and legs and toes, and they can see, well, that she drank them. That's a very clear sign. So our sciences are getting very, very precise. One of the things I learned was that with methamphetamine, with stimulants, cocaine, you do see a lot of babies born positive, and when a woman who's pregnant takes a stimulant, very strong stimulant like that, it actually induces labor. It contracts the smooth muscles, and so it actually will induce labor. So when you see a lot of babies born prematurely and low birth weight, and it's the effect of the substance, but also the very act of taking that drug will induce pregnancy. That's something that I didn't know, but until just a couple months ago. I hope you all learned a lot from this class. I do this to educate you, so you have, knowledge is power. Being able to, if you have a client or a family that you're working with, and the person is, well, what are they using? That will be one of the questions that you'll want to ask, because that will tell you a lot about how they're behaving. Whether it be in school, whether it be amongst the family, whether it be on their job, you'll know a lot just by knowing what drug they're using or what their addiction is. So that's why I would go into some detail on this. Next time, and I threw this in last minute, but next time we'll start with this. This is just a resource for you. It goes into a lot of evidence-based practices, resources like this, like say, well, it's been 3 years since I took Taylor's substance abuse, addictions and family course. I don't remember what we said. I lost my notes. But you can pull up a lot of stuff on these websites. A lot of like SAMHSA. There's a couple of more that actually have resources on the websites to be able to download and give to clients or use yourself. So I don't want to monopolize knowledge. It's out there. I'm just going to show you where to get it. So anyway, I'm getting pretty tired. I'm sure y'all are too. We'll continue next week. And nice, what I might do for next week, since I went into all these substances, I might go into a little bit more reasons why people use, to maybe increase your empathy, if possible, for
that would be awesome.
For our clients that use.
Yes, and because I'm actually planning on working with women, but again, those are women who mostly been traumatized state from like war and things like that. And especially from where I come from, women don't tend to drink that much or use those kind of substance to cope with whatever they are going through. So hopefully I won't get to deal with that, but if I ever were to practice in a different place where that is common, and I'm the only one who can provide that kind of service, I mean, the next class will really be helpful in helping me deal with them. So I'm looking forward to the next class.
It's official. I'm going to modify our syllabus and go into different subjects next week. So I will post it and then have it ready. But it'll be. I'm gonna pull up some YouTube things, some different videos if it'll work. If our internet will work, and so we'll have a little different flavor to our class. Everybody, please remember your journal assignments, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
Take care. See you, Sonia. See you, Nice.